So if a Christ follower, somebody who's accepted the grace of the gospel that we just talked about, is one who hurt me, then I need to stop and consider, as I'm thinking about vengeance toward that person, I need to stop and consider that Jesus himself has already paid the penalty for their sin against me. It's already been paid for. Vengeance has already been had, and there's nothing more I can do to make the payment for that sin any greater. And if the person who has hurt me is not a believer in Jesus Christ, then they are fully exposed, and the day will come when they pay the penalty of their sin on their own in full. And I do not want that for them. And yet that is the reality of where they are. I can't add to that. Can't add to that. So often we fail to connect our theology, what we believe, with our behavior, what we do. And so we say to ourselves, in the case of vengeance, I'm going to bring it. You mess with me, you're going to pay. And we stop to think, the penalty has already been paid. That's the story of the cross. Or we stop to think, that person doesn't know Jesus. They're at this moment, if they were to die now, they're eternally separated from God. This is not a game. Vengeance doesn't belong to me. Vengeance belongs to God. So I can trust that God is going to do the right thing. So that's the first step I take. Now you might be thinking, yeah, but this still sounds pretty passive. Surely there's got to be something I can do. Okay, and there is. Step number 2 is simply this. Instead of worrying about vengeance and trying to get payback and all that, invest your time in working toward a healthy relationship with that person. Spend your energy there. So someone does something to you, it hurts. It was wrong. It's an injustice. You can invest your energy in vengeance, or you can say, you know what? I'm going to do everything in my power to make this relationship right. I'm going to do everything in my power to repair this relationship that's been broken by this injustice. I'm going to spend my time working toward a right relationship. That's what I'm going to do. Okay? Remember that we learned before that revenge, it helps us feel better in the short term, but not in the long term. Okay? It just keeps the problem churning. That's all it does. If I'm seeking revenge, spending my time that way, all I'm doing is I'm just constantly stirring the pot. Proverbs 10:12. Hatred stirs up conflicts, but love covers all offenses. So instead of seeking revenge, which is just going to keep stirring the pot, keep making it worse, I'm going to seek a right relationship, because that is where I find real and lasting peace. See, here's the thing. Research tells us that if you want to be happy long term, you know what you need in your life? Healthy relationships. We're hardwired to benefit and flourish from healthy relationships. And so when you've received an injustice, you can spend your energy seeking revenge. All that's going to do, though, is stir the pot. Or you can spend your energy dealing with that injustice in a way that's going to lead to healthy relationships. Jesus talks about this very thing within the context of a church, within the context of a group of believers. Matthew 18, verse 15. If another believer sins against you, go privately and point out the offense. If the other person listens and confesses it, you've won that person back. But if you're unsuccessful, take 1 or 2 others with you and go back again, so that everything you say may be confirmed by 2 or 3 witnesses. If the person still refuses to listen, take your case to the church. Then if he or she won't accept the church's decision, treat that person as a pagan or a corrupt tax collector. So Jesus says, listen, here's what you need to do when someone treats you wrong. Do everything you can to make the relationship right. And as you're looking at that verse, you might be thinking, yeah, and then if it doesn't work out and they're just still all that hard-headed, then I get to treat them as a pagan or a tax collector. I'm in. Until you stop and remember, how did Jesus treat pagans and tax collectors? Pretty well. Pretty well. Why? Because he knows they are under the full wrath, the full penalty of their sin, because they stand outside the gospel. And the pain that you've caused me, the wound that you've inflicted upon me, cannot compare to that truth. So if I'm dealing with a believer in Jesus Christ, I'm going to do everything that I can to get into a right relationship with them. And if that person who's wounded me is not a believer in Jesus Christ, I'm going to do everything I can to see to it that they know the gospel of Jesus Christ, because I want more for them than an eternity separated from God. And I've got to lay my pettiness aside, because I don't want the last thing that that person gets from me to be my hatred. I want them to look at me and see the passionate love of Jesus Christ. Vengeance doesn't belong to us. It doesn't. Long term, it's going to mess you up. Don't go there. Let God have it. Spend your time investing in making the relationship better.